I don't know why they're telling you that.
Yeah.
You want it recording?
Mm. All right, so this is lesson 1 of NOYO Jazz, and what we're doing is we're recording this for, to put it into a drive, and that way everybody who wants to learn about jazz improv can do so. Okay, so first things first, let me ask you, and you can type in just yes into the chat bar right there if it's correct. Did everybody get the links to the Google Drive for all of the jazz stuff? Eli says yes. Asa says yes. Waiting to hear from the third one. So apparently, okay, so you can access all the files, so that's great. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to show you, or go through rather, the 50 essential jazz artists. So I'm not going to read all of them because I'm not here to just waste time. And let me also say this, that the reason for that being the very first thing that I'd like to go over is because what we're doing is, hold on, we've got a new participant. There's Sivo. Okay. Welcome on in, Sivo. All right. So the other thing I was going to say is that basically we're meeting this week virtually, and then next week is off because of an observance for Easter Sunday. So we won't meet again until the 19th. Okay. So that being said, that's why I wanted to give you some stuff to go ahead and listen to. I know some of you may already be hip to some of these cats, like Cannonball and Miles and Train. I know that Eli's talked to me about Miles and Train and stuff like that. So kudos, man. We've got the jazz wall behind me, so you could tell I'm already a big fan. But yeah, and look, let me just say this at the outset too. This is not intended for you to dig all 50 of these cats, you know what I mean? It's okay if you don't dig Ornette Coleman. The point is that you're there to just listen. These guys are considered masters by many, many, many jazz folks. So that being said, that's kind of like one part of your homework, so to speak. It's as much as you want to do with it. But check out Art Blakey, check out Michael Brecker, check out Ornette Coleman, check out Bill Evans, check out Herbie Hancock, especially if you haven't already. All right, Joe Lovano is from Cleveland. So, I mean, this guy, and he's still alive and he's still kicking, and, there's great stuff out there. Yeah, Jelly Roll Morton, Thelonious Monk, Charles Mingus, Kid Ory, all these guys, and Grover Washington Jr., Weather Report. They're all different styles of jazz, but the idea is that I came up with a list that, is like bare bones. Everybody should check them out. And then if you don't dig them, that's cool. Just know that they are jazz legends, and it gives you plenty of stuff to listen to because, let's face it, we're all stuck at home. So you got nothing better to do right now besides schoolwork and then learning some of this stuff, right? Another one of the things that I gave you was jazz films. And the ones that I went ahead and that had links on YouTube that you could watch, I went ahead and provided those links as hyperlinks. So all you have to do is click on those things. And some of them are like an hour, some of them are like 30 minutes. Some of them, like the Chasing Train, the John Coltrane documentary, is like a couple of hours long. It was a very well-produced thing where Denzel Washington was like reading the words of John Coltrane. So most of them have hyperlinks in that file folder. So, I mean, the ones that don't, whenever this thing passes and you want to order something off Amazon or whatever, do so, because they're all great. I guarantee you. I've been just drowning in jazz for the last like 30 years. So I'm telling you, I've already done the homework, so you don't have to go through all. I've already separated the wheat from the chaff. There you go. Jazz books. These are all great jazz books. In fact, the Jazz Theory book by Mark Levin is one of the things right here. Right, is one of the things that I wanted to make sure that was a basis for kind of setting you up for the right tools for this sort of thing. And that being said, a lot of the beginning bare bones things that you're going to be asking yourself, like, well, why am I learning about, necessarily a bebop scale? Oh, there's Nino. Sorry, Nino. Just saw you, man. Welcome on in. The reason you might be asking, well, why do I need to know this major bebop scale versus this dominant bebop scale? Well, it's all based on Mark Levin's theory, and he is a very seasoned jazz educator. So there you go. And then some of this stuff is Thinking in Jazz by Paul F. Berliner. There's a lot of material in there. It's like one of those books that's like that thick, you know, so it's like as wide as your face. And it talks about like gig etiquette. It talks about, you know, there's a certain time to have more of a conversation with other musicians rather than to just, you know, like try to cut their heads off, musically speaking. So that's important. And, you know, once again, once this thing kind of passes over, this is a great list for you to maybe even go to the library, because most libraries, you know, will have this, and you can do the thing where they'll send it to your local library. And there you go. I've read all of these, so, and they're just great. So everything from Duke Ellington's autobiography, Music is My Mistress, and to Jazz Essential Listening. I've actually got that one checked out from the Cleveland Public Library right now before this thing all happened. So it's quite a thick book for you to listen to. And I'm still learning myself, so that's the cool thing. The other thing right here, jazz apps and online resources. So the thing that's really, really crucial about this class is a couple of these apps, and I've included 10 of them on here. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. Let's see. Let me get out my phone real quick. And I wanted to make sure I let you know that, yeah, so you can see right here. These are some of the apps that I was talking about. There's a metronome on there. The one that actually shows like a neon blue B flat, that is the iReal Pro app. And that is essentially a app that acts like a real book for your phone. Okay, because once you click that, it'll do this, and then there'll be tons of standards, right? And let's say you choose a standard like Blue Monk, because I want to actually get to that one anyway. So you click Blue Monk, and then it comes up what looks like slashes like any kind of improv jazz chart. So that's why it's important to get the iReal Pro app, because there are thousands of tunes within that app, and you could do it on any tablet, any phone, whatever. And you can change the background settings to be black where the chords are white, or vice versa, right? So that's important. The Metronome app, of course, most of you probably already have a metronome, which is super important. Always helps. The cool thing about this is that you need to kind of go ahead and divorce your mind from anything you've learned in regular band classes, because jazz is completely different. And that's kind of the cool part of it, is we're the misfits of the musical world. You know what I'm saying? Like when we put on a metronome, I put on a metronome clicking like this. I'm not thinking one, 1, 2, 3, 4. I put on a metronome like this, and I'm thinking 2 and 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can take any of your method books. So if you're a trumpet player and you use the Arbenz book, or if you're a saxophone player, Asa, and you're studying out of the universal method, right? You can re-challenge yourself by going through all of those kind of exercises that you're already familiar with. Put that metronome on 2 and 4 instead of going instead of that. Now it's and now you get into that kind of feeling and swingability, which is one of the things we're going to touch on later on. But metronomes are super important because you can manipulate them to work whatever way you would like for them to work for you, to make you a stronger improviser. Okay. AnyTune app, this is really cool. It's one of the ones that I just showed on my phone right here. And the AnyTune app is the orange one, right? And what that allows you to do is you can have any song that you have on your phone or tablet, and it will slow it down without changing the pitch. Now, most slow down apps will change the pitch to where it's like, you know, Molasses Voices or whatever, one of those super creepy horror films, right? But what this does is it keeps the actual pitch. So if you're trying to learn like a lick by John Coltrane or Charlie Parker or whatever, and it's like, yep. Okay, well, instead of that fast, what we're doing is it'll slow it down going, now you can figure it out. And it's a lot easier to transcribe, figure out by ear, whatever method you want to use. Also, I have Jazzbird Lite or Jazzbird Plus. That's the little birdie that was on this thing in yellow to the off far side, right? And what that is you can pay for the one that's the Plus app, or you can get the free one, which is Lite. And what it is you can get hundreds and hundreds of jazz radio stations all around the globe. So if you want to hear, you know, jazz from Norway, or you want to hear jazz from Boston, jazz from New York, whatever, you know what I mean, jazz from New Orleans, it doesn't matter. It's all on there, which I have given you two of them that are my favorites. WBGO, which is out of Newark, New Jersey, which has been around for years, and they play lots of straight ahead jazz. There's not a lot of that smooth stuff, this like anti-Kenny G, if you know what I'm saying, right? And then you have WWOZ, which is a radio station that streams straight out of New Orleans. And they've got lots of cool stuff. So if you're on the line and you like more of a rock bass kind of thing, but you still like it to be jazz, that's the station you need to go to. Also, Jazz at Lincoln Center. Everybody probably knows about Winton and Jazz at Lincoln Center and how important they are. Well, they have a whole YouTube channel called Jazz Academy. And we are talking about seasoned professionals talking about things like tone, things like warm-ups, things like silent notes on trumpet warm-ups, right? If you've done whisper tones and stuff like that, man, that will just, it will create massive chops, which is great. I highly, highly, highly tell you to check that out. Also, there's the Free Jazz Institute, you know, that's number 8 on the list. And that by far is the transcription central. You know, there are tons of cats who are just transcribing lead sheets off of that thing, and it's a great resource to have. Another one is Jazz Advice. Now, even myself, after playing for 30 years, I still go to jazzadvice.com because they give wonderful insight on how to approach the bebop scale, the major bebop scale in improvisation. They'll say, well, try it from this note and look at it from this way, you know, and try on the 3rd, the 5th, and, you know, and the root, as well as the dominant 7th when you start these lines. And they'll give like little sound clips so that you can actually hear what they're talking about. And they talk about just things, how to approach things mentally if you're like burnt out from practicing, so you don't get burnt out. Everything you could ever want to know, these guys at Jazz Advice have totally thought of and are super helpful with it. Jazz Everyone, Willie Thomas unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he still has a lot of his videos on there. He approaches how to basically come up with simple ways to create bebop lines. And as we get into bebop, I will direct you to go to Jazz Everyone. And he is just he was one of the happiest people ever in the jazz community. He wore this fisherman's cap. He had a big, big beard, and yeah, he was just a lovable, like teddy bear of a guy. So that's what's really cool about that. So all of that is in the folder that is titled Supporting Materials for Jazz, okay? And you'll notice in that Google file that I sent you that that's just number 1, okay? The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I get to is the Blues Scales resource, okay? This is the other thing I wanted to make sure I get to today for you, okay? Because this is probably the most talking about like links and stuff like that, because we are on a 2-week hiatus. So Nino, Sivo, and Kits, because you did come in late, we are not meeting next week to observe Easter for everybody. So there is no NOYO things whatsoever next week, okay? So the next time we will meet virtually will be on the 19th. That's why I'm giving you a lot of talking points to check out now, okay? So in the number 2 Blue Scale resource folder in that drive, I have by instrument, alto sax, flute, piano, trombone, trumpet, and then also the same for the F blues scale, and also the same group of instruments for the B flat blues scale. Now, I understand that there are 12, but these 2 are by far the most common that are called at jam sessions. If they say, I don't know, man, what do you want to do? I don't know, let's do a blues. If they pick a blues, 85% of those tunes are either going to be in F or they're going to be in B flat without fail. Okay. So that being said, there's a few others that are in odd keys, but those are by far the most. So those are the two I picked. Now, if you actually click those links, you will see that I'm going to click it right there myself. I chose the one for alto sax because that's my main instrument, although I do play some other instruments, and I will be dabbling back and forth, so you're just going to have to be patient with me. So there's number 1, there's a number 2, and there's a number 3, okay? Now, number 1 is provided to go through the 12-bar blues progression, right? And it's just like a warm-up. Then as you get into number 2, I've actually written out as if you were in a band, a classical sort of thing, right? Those dotted 8th, 16th notes. That's how it sounds. Dun, 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 dun. But you have to try to relax your playing whenever you play it. Now, here's the key part. When you look at number 3, notice how they're all just 8 notes and quarter notes. Does everybody see that? Nods, yes? Okay, good. So here's the thing. Number 3 should sound exactly like number 2. Yeah. So when you're reading jazz, right, even though it's written like number 3, you're actually going to be playing it with that swing ability like number 2. That's the thing. And so I've included that in F and in the B flat versions. Now, what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to amplify a speaker here, right? And I'm actually going to go through the things that I've told you because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, right? So I'm going to go on iReal Pro, right? That's the neon blue B flat, right? And I'm going to go to S because S is straight no chaser, which is a blues in F. And they have it, where is it at? There we go. They have it at 160. I'm going to take it a little bit lower than that on tempo just so you can kind of hear what's up. I'm going to take it at 132. And they have 3 times. You can actually manipulate this how fast or how slow you want to go. And then at the bottom, how many times, right? So I'm only going to choose 3 for the point of what I'm trying to do here for you guys. So yeah, all right. And let me get my horn. All right. I hope that this doesn't actually distort through the computer speaker. So I'm going to kind of point it away from the computer, okay? All right. So let's see. I'll try to put this speaker here. And notice how number 2 and number 3 sounded exactly alike. Okay, that's kind of what we're going for. Because if you find yourself playing like this, that's a little hokey. Nobody wants that. You know, nobody wants that. What I call L7 playing, square, right? Nobody wants to be square. So, and that's the thing is you've got to take that which is written and relax it. So instead of going, lean back with it. You know how like Snoop Dogg raps? He always raps behind the beat, right? It's the exact same philosophy. You've got to be the Snoop Dogg of phrasing. So there you go. And it's a good idea to go ahead and accent, by the way, every 16th note as well. Just at first, just to give you, to push you into that swingability, okay? Now, eventually you want to ease up on that, and then it becomes. And then it just becomes more of a natural swing, okay? And the same thing goes, by the way, for trumpet or anything like that. You can, the important part is that you doodle tone, right? You don't want to go ta 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 ta. You dig what I'm saying? So you don't want to go like. You want to doodle 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 doodle. You don't want to go ta 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 ta. That's what I'm saying. You've got to forget everything you've basically learned in band, right? So, or orchestra. Sorry, Eli. I'm trying not to single you out, man. You know what I'm saying? But the idea is that we are the misfits. We get to make our own rules because jazz is more of an oral art form than it is a written art form. There are some theoretical things that are going on, and I'm going to get into that when we get into 2/5s and things like that. But Duke Ellington said it best. If it sounds good, it is good. And that's the ultimate goal, is that it doesn't matter. Well, I played it exactly like it was written on the page. They're not seeing what you're seeing. The audience is not seeing what you're seeing. They're only hearing what you're playing. So whether that's accenting slightly on the saxophone or it's doodle tonguing like on a brass instrument, right? See how it's got that little lazy swing to it? Same deal. And that's what I'm trying to get to, right? There are also other inflections that you can do as well. You can growl. You know what I mean? It's never okay to growl. Sorry, Eli, you can't growl necessarily on your bass, but you can growl on the saxophone. You can growl on the trumpet. You can even kind of flutter growl even on a flute. So that being said, right, you would never do that in a band situation, but you can do that in a jazz situation, right? So the idea is that you can bend notes, you can growl, you can do that, you can sit there and you can. Right? So you can do all these sort of things. You can bend notes, you can scoop notes. I'm doing it overdoing it, just for example, right? But you can go like. So don't overdo it. But the idea is that it's okay to do a little bit of everything. Anything is game. Okay? And eventually, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get away from playing the blues scale exactly the way it is written on the paper. So eventually what you're going to want to do is these things generally go 3 times. Okay? So eventually what you're going to want to do is you're going to take that blues scale that is written and you're going to play number 1 for the first go round. Then you're going to jump to number 3 because number 2 and 3 are the same, right? And you're going to want to play number 3 the second go round. And then the third go round, you're going to want to improvise your own solo using any of these notes within this blues scale. So what it is I've given you the B flat blues scale, concert B flat blues scale, and the concert F blues scale for these first 2 blues things in that blues scale resource folder title number 2, right? And then eventually, that's what I'm saying. You can use any of these notes to come up with your own solo. And this is what it should sound like. So I'm going to go to Blue Monk, which is, because that's what I said I wanted to get to. Blue Monk is a B flat blues, right? And it's at 100, right? Still using the iRealBook Pro. It's at 100 beats per minute in B flat, 3 rides. So the idea is that you are going to use it like this. You're going to go number 1, number 3, and then make up your own given any of these notes, right? That's your parameters. So I'm going to go through that one time. By the way, real quick, did everybody hear it? Was it too distorted when I played the first time? If it's okay, just nod up yes or no. Yes? Okay, good. Great. All right. So now I'm going to play Blue Monk, which is on the B flat blues. I'm going to go number 1, number 3, and then improv 1 ride, okay? Now, I try to make sure I didn't go outside of any of the notes that are in the blues scale. So, I mean, I could have went off on like some bebop, 2/5s, and manipulated some 14s, etc. But I wanted to keep it very simple because I wanted to make sure that that's what you're shooting for. I want to make sure that that's what you're shooting for when you improvise on that third go run. So, by all means, that first couple of times you do the F and the B flat blues scale, you need to do it exactly as written. But then as that becomes second nature and those scales just, you start developing that muscle memory, whether it's on the trumpet or whether it's on the flute, the bass, whatever. As that muscle memory becomes fixated into your hands, right? Then you can make sure that you start to improvise that third go round, okay? And only use at first those notes within the blues scale. That's super important, okay? And then if you do that and check out some of those links and artists and films, etc., and get those apps going by the 19th, then we will be on board to go ahead and start the jazz scales. Now that's a little bit more of a workout. If you'd like to go ahead and start taking a look at some of those, you can, but I would highly suggest not to go past pentatonic scales just yet, because I want to make sure that I explain to you some of the concepts behind the bebop scales, diminished scales, etc. Okay, and then after that, we're going to start getting into the 2/5s, which is truly like the bread and butter of how to improvise over jazz changes. Okay, there's the minor and the major 2/5 progressions, and I've got a couple of those listed for you as well. You should also have received in that link a link to your combo real books. So for each one, there's a bass real book, there is a B flat real book for trumpets, and like tenor sax or whatever. There's also concert pitch for like flute and piano, and there's E flat for alto sax. Okay, and that's got 77 charts that I picked because initially we were all going to meet in person and kind of learn some of these things, and then like we would play like a blues now, like all together, and that would be fun, So hopefully that stuff is coming in the near future and we'll all get past this crazy quarantine time. You know what I mean? So that being said, I want to open it up to any kind of questions you may have right now. So feel free to type in any of the questions that any of y'all may have, and I will do my best to answer them. Okay? Everything should be pretty simple at this point, but if not, it's all good. No stupid questions, ever. Okay? Has anybody got any questions? No? Okay, cool. Now, also, one other last thing. Don't forget, it's not about the gear, man. I know that some of y'all are young and, you know, you're just like, oh man, well, I need to get like this mouthpiece, or I need to get like these special strings, or I need to get like, you know, this kind of, I'm still using regular old, I don't even have like one of those little puffy neck straps. This is the same neck strap I had when I was in 7th grade, right? Way back when dinosaurs roamed. So, you know, I'm still using that. I still have regular old Van Doren Jumbo Java mouthpiece, a regular, you know, what you call it, ligature. I use jazz reeds, right? And I got a pro horn, but other than that, I mean, there's no special ligature. There's no magic reeds. There's no magic mouthpiece for trumpet. There's no magic oil that makes your valves go faster or anything. It's just about hard work, y'all. It really is. Okay. So, yeah. All right. Wait. Here we go. Here's a question. Since I'm playing jazz drum set, do I just practice jazz rhythms? So there is actually, Nino, in that same file that I sent you, right? There is a number 6 called Jazz Drumming Resources. All right. Glad you asked about that. I just assumed that you saw that, man. All right. So for drumming, that's number 20, 21, 22, and 23. Okay. Can you access those files, Nino? I looked at those. Do you want me to learn licks? Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, man, we're all learning licks, baby. That's what we're doing, right? So, I mean, that's the thing. When we get into the two, as a drummer, you're already going to be like one step ahead. You can't play blues scales on a drum. You know what I'm saying? So, what you're going to have to do is that you're already to the point where we will be as instrumentalists, right? Learning these 2/5 patterns, but instead of you learning 2/5 patterns, you're going to be learning drum patterns. And what I did was in that jazz drumming resources, I've given like, I want to say, 20 of those, and a bunch of them are like website links as well as YouTube links, because it is an oral art form, right? We listen to it. That being said, we want to make sure that you're watching. I try to find videos where they show the drummer up close, and then also aerial views. So you're like looking at the drummer as if you were sitting behind the set yourself. Okay. And then there's just classic drum things. So like Trading Fours by Max Roach, some great examples with that. There's transcriptions that I gave you for Max Roach is it, man. He is like the great jazz drummer. And then Tony Williams is the ultimate goal to set for yourself. Like if you can get to the point where you're kind of playing some Tony Williams kind of stuff, that's really, 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 really challenging jazz stuff. And he mixes a lot of different things: rock, Latin, jazz, blues, all sorts of rhythm shuffle, you know what I mean, together. And that's what makes Tony Williams like very, very high bar. So that's why I included a touch of that as well. You see where I'm coming from, Nino? Okay, great. Okay. Eli's got a question. Should I also practice walking for a blues? Yes, absolutely. And in fact, there should have been in that same folder, a jazz-based book link, right? Now, I just gave you the whole PDF to the book, man. Like it's the jazz-based book. And the cool thing about that, Eli, is that it takes on everybody's style, whether it's like Ray Brown and that swing style of bass, or it's Dave Holland with like rootless bass, or it's like Scott LaFaro with that kind of conversational bass that he had with Bill Evans, all the way through Oscar Pettiford and all through that. So that's the great part, is that they really give you a lot of snippets as far as that goes. And each one of those are kind of like building blocks. You know what I'm saying? That being said, I don't know anything. I'm just going to be completely candid and honest. I don't know anything about where fingers go on frets as far as that go with bass, but I know when it sounds right and I know when it sounds wrong. Okay, so it's kind of like jazz drumming, right? And, it's like you can tell when the beat's on and when the beat's off. And when the beat is off, you just don't feel right. But when the beat is right there, everybody just feels good, and everybody wants to just keep on swinging, and everybody wants to keep taking more solos. Same way with walking a bass line. You know when it's right, when it's wrong. So for both of y'all, Eli and Nino, I would say that the metronome should be your absolute best friend, right? And in fact, on some of the drum videos, they actually talk about how to set your metronome a certain way so that it helps you with your swingability and playing some of these licks, Nino. So Eli, it wouldn't even be a bad idea for you to check out, since it's open for everybody, some of the drum links and just see what, play along with some of those. It wouldn't hurt, you know what I mean? So the game is up for everybody, you know what I mean? So Asa, now with you and a lot more of the instrumentalists who may actually chime in after that, I would say that I know more where you're coming from a lick point of view. Same with trumpet players. So, Sivo on flute or trumpet and saxophone as well, I'll be able to navigate you a lot better with that, because that's where I came from. So, but yeah, awesome. Can I use some substitutions as well? Sorry, I just saw the second part. I scrolled, Eli. Yeah, if you already know substitutions, man, yeah. Because if you keep going, you'll see in number 5 folder, advanced methods, right there, number 17 is tritone substitutions. Okay, like Blues for Alice. Okay, yeah. So now you're getting into like Parker substitutions, right? And Parker and Coltrane were the two scientists that took the typical 12-bar blues like this, you know what I'm saying? And they exploded them to really get a lot more chromaticism out of those 12 bars. Plus, Coltrane manipulated it further, okay? And I would love to actually talk about some of those things as well. So look, so everybody's at different levels, and that's okay. We're all going to walk through this together to make, because in this weird environment, we're wanting to make sure that everybody gets something out of this, right? So that's what I'm trying to make sure I provide. So, but thank you guys. I do appreciate it. I think we've actually hit like the 30-minute mark and a little bit over, but that's okay. Feel free to email me, nholloway@noyo.org, if you have any questions. And likewise, if you want to record something audio-wise or video-wise and you want to send it to me going, what do you think? Am I doing this right? Feel free. I mean, I'm sitting at home. You know what I mean? I'm practicing the same stuff you guys are. I'm getting retight with my bebop scales and my diminished scales and my whole tone scales and my augmented scales and, all those Eastern Sephardi scales and all those things as well. So I'm dusting the rust off myself. So, but yeah, feel free to email me anything that you'd like. And like I said, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Feel free to ask any questions that you'd like. And please check out those links. And yeah, look over that blues scale stuff. Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. Okay. All right. Bye guys.